Well, good afternoon. This is John and Connie Kuder with Celebrating Small Family Businesses, and we are celebrating today Haley and Haley Dirck. Well, that's my left and my right. I think it's going to show up the same way, but
I know.
Haley has her hair pulled back and Haley has her hair down. No, other way around. Sorry. See, that's what happens with twins right away. I already did it.
You already missed.
The secret's out. You guys are twin sisters.
Yes,
Who
we're
knew?
identical. We're identical twin sisters. We are a family of entrepreneurs. Pretty much all of us, aunts, uncles, grandparents, all of us have owned our own business at one point or the other. And I think a lot of it has to do with one, not wanting to be in some corporate ladder nonsense, but also we love to help people. And we found that the best way to help people is by creating a business, filling a need. We do that fairly well.
Did anybody through the corporate ladder to experience that and pull the ripcord, or was it just an avoidance?
My mom is our corporate person. She helps us run a couple of businesses, and she has a lot of like little side projects that she works on. But she's done everything from a director of IT to being like the person who registers patients at hospitals. So she's done that whole like corporate ladder. She got her bachelor's degree just so she could move up and get some better jobs, better paying jobs. So she has done that. And then our dad, he never really went into like a management position, but he's kind of like our worker bee. And so he's really, really good at being a worker bee. But he's that consistency that you need in business for the workhorse. He is 100% our workhorse. He has this unbelievable work ethic. Like I've never met anybody like him. Mm-hmm. He literally works until he cannot go anymore. Like 3 hours of sleep, back up the next day. He is definitely, and now he's in his 50s and he's like, I'm not 26 anymore. And he makes those jokes all the time, but he can outlast this 26-year-old all day long. Mm-hmm. He goes to his corporate job and where he works for a security company, and he works anywhere between 40 to 60 hours a week. And then he goes and supports our other small family business with his son and myself, where they do custom car audio, and he works there from anywhere from 6 to midnight every day, and then works every Saturday and Sunday.
Wow. So he's setting quite an example.
He has definitely given us like suck it up buttercup mentality of like, you get out there, you get your job done, and you go home at the end of the day, but you still, you give it everything you got every day. Yeah. He's a crazy one. I tell him all the time, I was like, there's this thing called work-life balance. And he's like, yeah, but there's more work to do. And I was like, all right, Dad. All right.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have each got your own specialty. Why don't you take turns telling us a little bit about what you do in your solo piece of it?
So it's interesting because there is so much creativeness in both. In any business, you have to be creative and you have to be business oriented in some capacity. And I figured out when I was in my master's program that both my grandmother and my great grandmother, one on either side, were bookkeepers. And I thought that was really interesting because I was in healthcare and I was really stuck and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know what that was. And then my cousin happened to be the number 3 reseller of QuickBooks in the world. And so he turned me on to their training platform and I got certified. And then I fell in love. I fell in love with being able to help people. I'd already seen so many of my family businesses be built. They had really strong processes. And so people look at me all the time and they go, how are you a business consultant at 26 years old? And I was like, I had a whole lot of examples of what not to do, what to do, what really helped, what saved their businesses. And so my brand is Evergrow Consulting. And I like businesses to be ever growing. And so that's kind of my thing. And then my thing is, she talks about creativeness with businesses and you have to have a creative side. So I complement hers with doing business branding. So mine is One City Photography, where I specialize in making your brand tell a story. And so whether it's from your headshots to your logos to your other things, I help create that story and create your ever-growing business.
So are you responsible for the branding of all your family businesses? Other
Pretty much. She does. She does everything from our logo designs. Like she helped me design my logo. She helped me design I'm business of the month at a bank this month. She helped me design all of my marketing materials for it. Even down to our social media posts, she'll help us post everything that we need. She'll take our headshots. My dad and brother got into a magazine. She was sponsored in the magazine as the photographer. It came out really super cute, actually. So she definitely takes it all the things that we do well, she captures it well, and then brands us to speak to our target audience.
Excellent. Great teamwork. Wow.
So Kaleigh, we know kind of how Hayley got into it, but how did you find this niche?
So I went to school for graphic design straight out of high school.
Okay.
I had previously fallen in love with photography and just always had a knack for it. And I always had a camera in my hand since I was probably 12 years old. And then I had a coworker who was doing second shooting, and I was really interested in shooting full time and learning about a business culture and again, how to help people and capture memories. And because a memory is, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but what does that memory say? And so that's kind of where I came into it. I was capturing people's events and things like that. But then I was like, with my brother's company and my sister's company and my aunt's company, I learned very quickly that there's a whole lot of photographers out there ready to capture your firstborn, but there ain't a whole lot of photographers out there ready to capture your business and create you a story that you are like-minded and that will bring in your ideal client. And there's tons of marketers out there, but the marketers don't do the individualized branding of yourself to present to somebody else. Because a small business is oftentimes just the person who owns it. It's not a big, huge team. It's usually, a husband and wife like you all. And you might have a couple other people on your team, and that's usually you get 10 employees maybe. And that's why we all fall in love with them. And so I kind of found my way to businesses and have been loving being able to support them ever since.
Wow.
Very cool. As you're talking about the capturing the story, and I'm thinking about Google business page and the fact that there's room for continuous updates, to keep that fresh and to keep Google showing your business. Do you do some of that as well?
I do. I encourage people. So I'll go kind of through their analytics with them, and then I'll give them advice on how to update that. So whether I go through all of their social medias. So when I do a consultation with somebody, I look at their logo, their Google My Business, the back end of their social medias like Facebook and Instagram, even if they do Pinterest or Nextdoor or some of the other less popular, but still out there marketing ways or, communication ways. There's some sort of social media. I look at all of that and I give tips on each one based on my experience with each one. And I hope that I can get more calls in for you guys and for each client. And I give them advice on what analytics are showing and seeing how they can improve. And then if I can't personally help them, I find them like a website designer or somebody who can help with their SEO and things on the back end.
Nice. Well, way more than just photography, I'm hearing. Way.
Yeah. So you get the photography part of it, which is the piece that I love. She's really great about it. But there's a fundamental business advice. So when I talk about businesses in general, I talk about who you want to connect with. So like you and I, we're a B2B, we're business to business oriented. Mm-hmm. Our ideal client is a business owner. We don't want the Joe Schmo on the street that has a family that we really want to talk about a budget. We want to talk about mindset. We want to talk about mindfulness. We want to talk about what's stopping you from getting to that next level. What's been the thing that's hurting you all this time and you don't know how to get past it, right? That's what the consulting side does it. That's what the coaching side, the business development side does to it. And so when you can team up with people like us and people like you guys, where we kind of get you out of your own way, well, they're like, well, I hated pictures. That's the biggest comment I get for photography and for branding, is that I hate being in front of the camera. And I said, is that you? Yep. See? And it's one of the worst comments I get. But here's the reality. Your brand is yourself, especially when you become the business. The business is part of your identity. The business will be that thing that builds you generational wealth that you will pass on to your children. It is your legacy that is left behind. Otherwise, you wouldn't have started it in the first place. And in that sense, take the picture. Be the brand, be the identity, be the reason why people want to come into the room and talk to you. And when we talk about RGA, we talk about the Kuder Consulting Group. We talk about how Connie and John comes into a room and they light up the space, because you guys are the brand. You guys help people. You are easy to identify. And so one of the things that I love about you guys coming and joining us on a regular basis is you are so memorable. We definitely don't ever forget you. Nope, that's for sure. You're welcome.
Well, thank you. Yes. And I love that you just said that, because one of the things in our education about marketing and what we listen for and watch for, when I just heard somebody yesterday say we were doing introductions around the room, and one person is in the financial advisory space, and there were 3 or 4 others in the room. And this person said, what makes me different is that I really care. And I thought, oh dear,
Sweetie, we need to help you with that.
There's a lot of branding there that could use some help.
And we don't even do that.
But, I mean, forget what that sort of says about the other people, implies about the other people. There was no intention of that. But we also heard a lady one time as a realtor, she stood up and said, what makes me different is that I'm a realtor. I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors.
That and $100 a year will get you that.
Makes you different from maybe, a photographer. But so that personal brand, that when you're talking, one of my favorite questions is, if I was to line you up with 15 of your competitors that work in the same industry as you do, what makes you stand out?
Right. So for me, for bookkeeping, I don't hand people back a profit and loss sheet. I won't hand it back to you and say, here you go. My response to you is, how do your numbers work? Why are they working? Why are they not working? What's your next goal? I will never just hand you back your books and say, here you go, have a nice day. My response is, how do we make you more profitable? Are you charging enough? Are you even up to market? You know how many estheticians I've redone pricing on just because they weren't up to market?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And they're selling themselves short at $50-$60 an hour, when they should be pricing themselves anywhere from $95 to $250 an hour for certain types of services or facials, because those products are expensive. So it's not their time that they're paying for, it's the products, and they don't even realize it.
And is it because that they don't realize what the market is, or they're afraid to charge market and lose customers?
They're afraid. So specifically in Lakeland, they're afraid to charge market and lose customers. But I've noticed is that every single one of them have gone to a loyalty program, where that if they buy 3 or more services at a time, they get the person gets a certain percentage off, which winds up being back down a little bit higher than their original prices. They still give them that 10, 15, or 20% back in a tip. They're still making the $95 an hour. It's not hurting them one bit. And now they're getting recurring services. Mm-hmm. And so they built businesses based on loyalty instead of building businesses based on scarcity.
Nice.
Nice. Good.
Well, getting back to the family part of it, what do you guys love most about working with family?
I love that. I saw a statistic the other day that says when we move out of state, that we see our family 1,000 times more in our lifetime, like 1,000, like just 1,000 times. That's it. And what I love about working with family is it takes the barrier out of conversating with them. Our lives get busy. We get out of touch. We kind of get so busy that we just disconnect. What business makes you do, you don't get an option for it, is it makes you communicate. It makes you conversate.
For sure.
It makes you connect with them on a daily basis, 6, 7 times a day sometimes, depending on what you're working on. I mean, I call Kaylee every day to talk about business.
Yeah.
And when we weren't doing businesses, we'd probably talk once a week. And so what I find is it ups our connectivity. It increases our communication. And I love seeing her. Let's be real.
Haley, what about you? What do you love most?
I want to say that my relationship with my family has always been a strong one, but there are moments where it oftentimes helps us create boundaries and stick to boundaries and learning another person's work type or work ethic. Like, I know me and my brother, if we don't have food, it's not a good day. It's not going to be a good day. I know that if we don't get lunch by a certain time and like just knowing things, and I guess when you work in the office, you see, your coworkers and you get used to that. But when you have your family there, it's, another person to help take on responsibilities, do the caretaker role for, the whole household kind of thing. But in this work, in case it's the whole work world, And so definitely with communication and just earning relationships that are sometimes tougher in your life anyways. I don't know about you, if you've ever had, a tough moment with your mom or dad and you're like, oh my God, I want to kill you as the child or the parent. And we work through those. And, at the end of the day, we still call each other and it's like, hey, by the way, we had other stuff that happened. And, still do the whole update thing. So I definitely say I get more quality time with all of that.
Nice. It sounds like you guys have found some healthy ways to take those challenges and pull appreciation for each other out of them ultimately when you work through them.
Yes.
Understand you see the person as more than just that family role.
Yes. And that's really nice too, because I know if I called my brother right now, one, he's going to pick up the phone because he's going to think it's business related and he's going to make money. And two, he's going to be like, well, she's calling. It must be important. But before, he would be like, oh, she's just calling to chat and maybe ignore the phone call. Or my dad's kind of the same way. Like, he'd be busy during the day and now he answers every phone call. And he's like, hey, are you good? Is the business good? Are we good? Like, I'll be like, everything's fine. Just call me when you get a second, and then click and hang up. And so it definitely makes for like funnier conversations too. You get the customers and you're like, oh yeah, that customer came in and, that guy was just sweeter than ice cream and you got to treat him good when he comes back kind of thing. And so we get to have those kind of relationships with customers and they get to know us as a family and they eat it up. They love it. They love that we're all there together and they really enjoy our, banter back and forth with each other that you maybe wouldn't get in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. You don't. There's a level of trust there, right?
Yeah, I think they're
Yeah,
probably
right. It makes
jealous
us-
too. They think about where they work and they say, man, I wish I could have that
Well,
much fun
and
where I go.
And it makes us human and it gives them a good reason to connect with us. And it gives them, they can identify in their own lives. They think that, man, this family is doing it. They've beat out the obstacles. They have achieved kind of a work-life freedom in the sense that, like, when we want to take off a week, we close the businesses for a week and we leave. Granted, are we necessarily working, making money? No, but has it happened where it works out because the next month is busier than the month prior because we took that break? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's moments where, we can take off to go to doctor's appointment. Not everybody can do that with their work.
I'm sure you guys worked in corporate as well. And you had children while you worked in corporate, correct?
No,
No.
my
No?
corporate career was at the end of my career arc.
And mine was at the beginning.
So, and hers
Okay, well, then y'all worked out.
Yeah.
So, oftentimes, like my brother, before he opened Swan Customs, he had an electrician job where he literally worked like 16 hours a day for somebody else. And so he couldn't spend a whole lot of time with his family anyways.
Oh.
And he wasn't making very much money anyways.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
he hated it. He wound up like opening the Swan City Customs was a blessing for him, because now when the kids have soccer games on Saturdays and Sundays, he goes to every single soccer game. He goes to every single soccer practice, every single graduation. It doesn't matter. If my dad's not able to cover the shop, then Kaleigh and I will go and cover the shop. So it has really been nice to find this balance, not only with our businesses, but in our lives, to be able to go and enjoy the moments that are important, that should be enjoyed, that we probably wouldn't have been able to. So for instance, my grandmother came into town for the weekend. I took the entire weekend off to go spend with her and make sure we went to the beach and make sure we spent time, because the last time that our grandparents were here it was the last time. And so it's nice to be able to control that schedule without having to be like, oh my God, what am I missing?
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I totally second that. I was fortunate enough to be in a family business where I could, take the time off. So I never missed a school program or a game or any of that stuff. I was always there.
And your parents were always there too.
I think our kids probably took it for granted. I don't know, but I know I was there, and I've seen the other side. I did work with people that weren't able to, in that corporate world, and then have ask time off to take their kid to the doctor, or be concerned about the status of their job when something was going on at home, when they really needed, that moral support and emotional support. Now they're having to worry about two things instead of one. And that's sad, but that's what I liked about family business.
Yeah, because kids, I'll tell you, and you probably know this yourself. You're close enough to this. You don't remember the times they were there. You remember the times they weren't there.
Absolutely. And I think even as kids, we didn't get to do a lot of extracurricular activities because our parents were working corporate jobs then. And our parents didn't get off until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So we actually had a family friend of ours, a teacher, who would take us back and forth after school, because she lived around the corner from us, which I don't know if that would be allowed nowadays, but we did. We had a teacher who was kind enough to take us to all of our TSA and all of our extracurricular FBLA, stuff, because that's what they did. And that was the only reason why we got to participate until we were much older in high school and we could drive, and we were able to go to do theater after school. And then we had after school jobs that we went to, and mom just gave us the keys and we went. Yeah. So, but we couldn't do that until we had vehicles and rides for ourselves.
Right.
And I'm sure most kids are like that, especially when their parents don't have that ability. But it's like, I have a client of mine, and she has a 14-year-old daughter, and she takes off at 11:30 every weekday during the summer to take her to gymnastics. And she can do that because she owns her own business.
There you go.
She just walks out that time and takes her. And I think those are hours in our lives that we don't ever get back.
That is correct. That's correct. So what's the challenge that you all overcome in your journey?
Is there
As a family or individual?
that y'all are a little bit different, work together and individually. So I don't know, just is there a challenge that you overcome that other family owners might relate to, that be
Sure. I think communication is key.
occasional?
I think finding a mentor is key. I think finding a business coach is key. Getting out of your own way is super duper important. I think when you come at something from an outside perspective and you're having other people validate somebody else's opinions and beliefs in a sense of, we should run the business this way because this process flow makes more sense.
or these are the 10 steps that you need to take to run inventory. I think that has a lot to do with overcoming specific obstacles in business, because what it takes to grow $100,000 business is not what it takes to grow a $500,000 business.
That is correct.
Not at all. So they're getting the Dad and Trevor really have they have really grown to the next stage where they need to start tightening up some areas, some expertise areas, to help them grow to that next level, which is one of the things that we've been working on as of lately. As a family, we've all hopped in and said, okay, this process cannot stay like this. It's the inventory in this case. This process cannot stay like this. How do we fix it?
Yeah. How do we, correctly do stuff going forward? And how do we manage this if we get employees? Because we're to that stage where we're going to start hiring people who are not family members.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a difficult, thing to train somebody else, And so our thing is, in our family, is it breaks down to communication. I'm not an expert in car audio things. I'd like to be an expert in car audio things. But there's some days when I'm not going to know something that, my dad, who has, 30 plus years experience in it, or my brother who's, got almost 20 years experience in it at this point, because he's been doing it since he was grasshopper. And so there's just moments where, we really got to communicate with one another about a customer or project, or, communicate across how to teach somebody else, how to, train another person to be, another you. And I know that I have a twin, and that kind of translates to, well, you do have another you. Oh, we're a little different. And so I think also taking a step back and not being mad at them because they're family, and understanding that everybody's opinion and everybody's thoughts have space. Mm-hmm.
So you can feel a certain way all day long and understand that those feelings and emotions are valid, but sit down and say, hey, we can come at this from a solution point instead of a problem point.
And so we have team meetings, and we sit down and we ask everybody's opinion on it, especially at the shop. I say, what do you want to do with this? What money do you want to spend? How do you want to, what's my budget for this? Mainly, most people's pain points are over finances. Every time. Somebody's feelings are going to get hurt over $1 or $2 or $250. It's always going to be about money, no matter what. And you're always going to feel stress and pressure when you're trying to make a business work when there is limited finances. And you sometimes have to learn to be creative or put the dollars in the right spot. And there's always going to be an argument about that. It doesn't matter how good of communicators you are. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to get yelled at, and somebody's going to,
Yeah, constructive disagreement, I think, is what
exactly what it is.
And you gotta make sure that your opinions are your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
We all have one.
Mm-hmm.
And it is super important to not get overwhelmed or angry even because there is an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
There's a path. You will always find the path. If it's meant to be, it will work out, I promise. But there are things in this world like inventory where you have to do it a certain way. You get in trouble by the powers that be, the Department of Revenue, the sales tax people, the IRS. And so where I always start is from a place of logic, right? In any business, start from a place of logic. Well, while this is costing us money, is it legal? How should we be doing it legally, right? Because a lot of people don't understand, even in their state, their county, or their city, what kind of laws there are. So are you required to have a business license in Pinellas, Polk, Hillsborough? Are you required to have a business license in the state or in the city of Lakeland, in the city of Tampa? Checking those basic boxes first, and then getting into, okay, now we have this big thing like inventory and we're not really managing it well. Well, Square creates a barcode system that you can scan a picture item. And as long as you put all the items in and you have a barcode and you type in the price of the inventory and you pull a report once a month, then you're done. It's that simple. And so
that sounds like a best practices kind of logic. Best, you start with that. You've got a decision tree that starts with, what's the law, what's legal, like what are the requirements, and then what are best practices, and then what are we going to do? What are we going to try? Right? Because sometimes practices don't work in a business, and you've got to try and find out what works, and then try something else. Right?
Exactly. And I think the other thing is finding ways to automate in business that take the decision making out of it. Then you don't have things to argue about because it's automated.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah, because you say decision making, but I know in practice a lot of times it's more moods. I like doing that today.
Exactly. And so when you automate the process or make it super easy or super simple, then there's no reason to argue or complain or discuss it any further. It's either automatically taken care of, or the process is so simple that there's no reason why it can't be followed.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Anything you wish go ahead. Sorry, Kayla.
Sorry, pain points for other things. I'm good with that.
Do you want us to talk about it individually?
We could go on for hours, and but we won't. Is there anything about being that you in a family business that you kind of grew up in a family business, so this may not apply, but that you know now that you wish you'd known earlier? Like, is there discovery that you made along the way?
So in our community in Lakeland, there are not a ton of resources on how to get started, what to do, where to go, who to contact, what demographics to search. There is not a ton of resources. If we had known now what we know now, we wouldn't have struggled so hard. And I think I know Orlando created something, and I know Lakeland's working on creating something. Find the resource in your community. Search it out. Find a mentor. Find somebody who's done it before. Because what happens is we spent so many years, literal years, trying to figure out the best way. Like when we first started, and granted I'm a bookkeeper now, and it's what I do, we didn't know when taxes were due for our business. We had no idea. And it's another thing is like, you can go to a CPA, but the CPAs half the time only help you so far. And you're like, give me this document and this document, but you don't even know what those are. And you're like, or our big thing was tangible taxes with the county. And we had moved locations and we ended up with multiple bills for these tangible taxes based on these multiple properties. But our business had moved. There was no multiple properties. There's only one property. And it wound up costing them several $1,000s to get fixed because we were beyond the time frame and didn't know it. And it was just
part of the moving was to update the records with the county, the taxing authority, so that didn't happen.
Exactly. Okay. And we went ahead and we did the update and all that. But because we didn't have the knowledge that we have now and went through that, somehow they created us a second account number instead of a first account number. And we didn't realize this until later on. And it was a whole math. They had three accounts. Not one or two, they had three.
Did you find resource did you find that you could recommend? Is there one like at SBDC?
So RGA is a good resource just because it kills two birds with one stone. You have a ton of business owners in RGA that know what they're doing for this particular community. So finding a networking group always is a great resource. I think SCORE is national. And so SCORE is a really nice resource because it's typically free in communities. Mm-hmm. Honestly, go to a local church is a good place to start because there are going to be business owners who go to church.
I'm going to tag in there. Go to the resources. So if you're opening a business, go to your local city's page or town page So ours is Lakeland.gov. And so go to there and they have a business section and they have a business group. Their Lakeland Chamber of Commerce, and there's a merge, which is for smaller millennial. It's like their millennial group almost. It's like the, I think 25 to like 45 range is
Mhm.
typically the business owner that's in the merge. But the other thing is go to the county, whatever county you're in, call. They have a business department. And then the state also has a business department. Now, if you go there and you get no answers, look for people who are business consultants or who
Help businesses.
help
be set up.
businesses. So like in my case, I help lots of businesses become a business because they're like, I don't even know what I want to name my company because I know what I want to do, but I don't know what to call it. And I don't know where my story is going. So that's kind of where my photography business comes in play. It's like I help them find a name and help them register their LLC, do those things. But also, typically a bookkeeper or a CPA oftentimes can help with some of that leading information as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
Do you guys interact with other family businesses that are outside your family?
So I go to a networking group. I go to several networking groups. And one of the things that I found is that a lot of our leaders in our community actually own businesses. They've been in business owners for a very long time. But I'm also finding that like we have a security company in one of the networking groups I go to. It's her husband and herself who are the business owners. They've been doing it for 20 years. I find that one of the other leaders who leads it, they're an insurance agent and her husband's a realtor. So like they've been doing family business for a long time. What I do love about going to these networking groups is most small business owners are going to have some sort of family aspect. So whether it's their son, daughter, grandchild helping out, or whether it's their sisters and brothers or parents, I have found that once you start a business, your family kind of follows. And that's what we've seen in our case is like every one of us steps in. Our parents are divorced and my mom will still go help my dad and brother run their business. Like
Wow.
if they needed somebody to go sit in on a Saturday, she would go do it. And
Class act.
and it relates back down to that we are all in small business to build a business to support our families. And so most families recognize that and help as much as possible.
Okay, great. That's what I was wondering because when I was, it's a different situation maybe, but in our business, my father was very private about the business, and he was like, "Don't talk about our business to outside the family." And so,
And the family was,
there was no,
you know,
you guys have talked about having mentors and getting fresh eyes and outside ideas and all that, and other than the CPA and the lawyer that were trusted, and I mean, we were dealing with second generations there, and we had an insurance agent that we're now dealing with the second generation of that. Been using the same family for insurance for 40 years plus. So, outside that very close circle, there was nobody to talk to. I was afraid to talk to anybody because I was afraid I was going to reveal, so I couldn't compare notes with anybody. And I feel like there is an aspect to family business that can be, if the family has that sense of privacy, protecting their privacy, that it can be very isolating. And so, in asking about networking, I'm wondering if you run into, people that are experiencing that.
So because I come and I think this is a Kaleigh and I thing. So if you sit down with us, you typically tell us your life stories.
Yeah, that's true.
And
She's
they're
not wrong.
people are not shy. I don't know if it's because we're very disarming. We're 4'10", 4'11", dark hair, blue eyes, pale skin. I don't know if it's because I was told the other day that we look like puppies, but we really are lions. So we're very disarming. And so a lot of times, one, I ask leading questions that will get me to that next answer. But most of the time I went through the Starbucks drive-through like 3 months ago, and this lady told me that her kid was sick and that she was having a rough day. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I haven't told this to anybody all day. And I was like, it's okay. It's fine. You know, I hope your kid feels better and that you have a better day. And here's an extra tip. And that has just been the story of our whole lives. Like, people will, and she's
For
giggling.
sure.
Connie is literally giggling. She's
This
cracking
happens to
up.
Connie. Our son, our youngest son, teases her all the time because people would tell her their life stories.
We're sitting in line and they're like, can we hug you? Like, they feel this like personal relationship
Like-
with us. And we're like, where's that coming?
Well, and it's really interesting because we are asked all the time if they want the twin hug. So it's a thing. They feel like extra loved or something about the twin hug. I don't know.
Cool.
Anyways,
I've
But
never
yeah,
had a twin hug.
Let's do that next time.
yeah, we got you. So, but it's really interesting because we'll be standing in the middle of the grocery store and this dude will be like, oh, man, I'm having a bad day. And then they'll start talking to us and we're like, do you want a twin hug? And it will change their whole day because we're like, did you want a hug? And they're like, of course we want a hug. But it's the basic human connection. And I think that's what
Exactly.
businesses ultimately do is it connects us together, good, bad, and ugly. And it can really break people apart. But I think that if you can kind of get past some of the arguments and mostly about money, if you can get good financial footing and good financial education and literacy, I think that makes all the difference in the world. I think what people sometimes fail to do in family businesses is they get so private. They don't reach out for help. And they get into a predicament where their business is failing and they have no idea how to save it.
And now they're
Because-
And it's too late.
And it's too late.
It
Yeah.
is too late. And
So the other thing is some of that comes with the generations, as you both are familiar with. Your parents did it totally different than you did, and your kids will do it totally different than you all do. And so our generation, and for Haley and I, we were very much taught to be very open, and we were taught to be very transparent. And that's something that, we were nurtured into, is we were always transparent, most time with finances in our household. We were transparent, with
Wow.
conversation and communication in our household, everything from boys to, money and finances to business. And that's how we have businesses and multiple of them at 26, is because we did have so much transparency growing up. And I think
Amazing.
that generational divide of my parents were maybe a little more secretive with their parents, or maybe a little bit more secretive with their businesses, and didn't reach out to resources until.
And one of the
Mhm.
things that I think a lot of us are starting to understand is wealthy families talk about money all the time. Wealthy families talk about money. They talk about how they got to their next step. They talk about what they're doing, what they're setting up in trust for their kids. They talk about what college they're going to go to. They talk about what career they're going to get, all from a very young age. When we talk about when the average family who makes $40,000 to $60,000 a year, you think they're talking about money?
No.
Absolutely not.
They're avoiding it because
They don't have enough money to cover the bills, so why talk about it? Why bring it up?
And
And I-
you have no expectations of going to
Okay.
college and et cetera, and you're on your own.
Or trade school, or
Exactly.
what's going to be your career path? Those are not topics of conversation.
No.
And
Yeah.
and one of the things that my parents did is that they did for both of us is we talked about career paths early on. So
so early on, like that's when we were like
Wow.
11. We're like, what are we gonna go do?
I wanted to be a chef when I was 10. Like, they bought us cooking supplies. We were 10 years old. They bought us aprons and timers and egg separators and you name it. We were cooking and
Cool.
all by 10. And then by 15, I wanted to be a CEO of a non-for-profit hospital because my mom works in the healthcare system and she loved it. And now I wanted to be a CEO by the time I was 28. I'm a CEO by the time I was 26. So
Yay.
We, a little different field, but it worked out.
Yeah.
So I think Kaylee's always wanted to be a photographer. She's always loved it. We even went to the Art Institute to like tour the photography industry.
Wow.
And they're like at like 15 or 16, our mom took us over there and it was really impressive. And my response was, photographers don't make any money. I looked at the statistics then, and they really, and unless you got into a specific field, they didn't make a ton of money. Branding, on the other hand, makes a lot of money. And so it can be a very successful career path. And then if you have a team to build onto, I think every business needs a team, point blank period. That's the other thing, is don't have your family do every single thing, because if something happens to you in your business or something happens to you outside of your business, the reality is you have to have people trained, skilled in order to take over that business. So whether that's family who's grieving, you have to have other people willing to step in and kind of handle things until they get back on their feet.
Wow.
And so now, by not putting all your eggs in one basket, always dependent on those family, finding people who can learn the business, who can train with you, while you still pass it down to family members, it doesn't have to be the end all be all.
Wise words.
Very good.
So you guys, I'm going to say, where can people contact you? Is evergrowconsulting.com the central point, or I know you've also got Swan City Signings and Swan City Title Office and Swan City Photography and Swan City and Swan
Yes.
City Trailer Rentals. One of those have its own website and separate brand. And
Absolutely. So you can contact any of those pretty much out of .com. So Evergrow Consulting is my business, and you can email me at admin@evergrowconsulting.com. Find me on evergrowconsulting.com. I'm listed on Google. You can always give me a call there. And then Kayleigh, her Swan City Photography. Let me take a
And I was just letting her go, guys. So Swan City Photography, you can reach me at my first name, assist@gmail. So it's KALEIGH, assist, ASSIST, @gmail.com, or call me by my cell phone number at 863-660-6814, or Google me on Google at Swan City Photography. The other businesses are all just like SwanCityTrailerRentals.com. You can reach out through email or through phone through there. Signings is the same thing, phone or email through SwanCitySignings.com, and Swan City Title is co.com. Again, phone number, email there, and Swan City Customs, just Google. Yep.
cool. Well, I'll make sure I get all this in the show notes for
Yeah.
this episode, and
I'll send you
Welcome written.
an email with all of the information
be
written
wonderful.
out for you.
Thank you.
Let's not make it harder than you need to be. Let's give you the information so you can just
Perfect.
put it in the podcast notes and call it a day.
There we go.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Well, this has been an immense pleasure.
Oh,
Thanks
absolutely.
for spending this time with
Thank you.
us. And
We learned so much, not just about you, but about your business and how you two work, and it's been fun.
All right. So thank you so much
and
for having
inspiring.
us.
Yes, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Work hard.
We look
and
forward to seeing what you like in your next steps.
Yes. We will be growing immensely over the next couple of years. So my personal goal is to be in every single state in the next 3 years. I'd like a client from every single state.
We'll be watching.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.